The area that I want to reflect on first is around technological changes. So here's the thing. Can you imagine a world where you didn't have pocket calculators, personal computers, mobile phones or emails? Is that a bit scary? Because that's what it was like when I embarked on my career, and maybe one of you in the room remember that. Actually, it was quite nice, because you probably had to talk to people a bit more. And instead of just pinging an email, you might send a letter, or even that dreaded memo. But inevitably, the pace of work was a bit slower. And has anyone still got a slide rule? Does anyone know what a slide rule is? Can you remember those? Can you remember logarithm tables? Flipping out, I'm glad we saw the back of those. So, when I started my engineering degree, we didn't have those things. They hadn't even been invented, some of them. And it sounds as though like I came from the dinosaur age, but actually this is the 1970s. And again, thinking about computer-aided design, it was undertaken on mainframe computers using punch cards and Fortran. I mean, you know, that's how it was. So when you reflect on that, and I think from my perspective in my career, what I've seen is a transformation in terms of that technological input. And it's in the power of computing, the internet, mobile technology has revolutionized our capacity to be far more productive and innovative. And I think, you know, the pace of change is set to continue. We have big data, the Internet of Things, virtual reality, expert systems, robotics. We should accept and embrace this change and recognize the benefits that it would bring. But also remember that we need to understand the principles of what we're dealing with. And remember that old adage, rubbish in, rubbish out. It's also worth reflecting on what the impact will be on our network management role with the inevitable move towards autonomous vehicles. Well, they'll still need a network to travel on. They might have different control systems, but we'll still need to build this network and maintain it. So I guess in that respect, most of us will still be in a job in the future. Another area perhaps to reflect on, which is particularly relevant in local government, I guess, is all the organisational changes that we've been through. So let's imagine another parallel universe in a world where motorway design was undertaken by a government agency called Road Construction Units, where counties and metropolitan authorities manage their motorways. District councils under highway agency agreements manage their local road network, and county surveyors were more important than chief executives in local highway authorities. That was what the world was like when I started my career. I worked on motorway design in the RCUs in Surrey and Derbyshire. I managed county and trunk roads as an integrated network in Lincolnshire. And in Nottinghamshire, I managed 6 council agency agreements, and I've worked under 4 county surveyors. But nothing stays the same for long. And we will continue to see further changes in local government, either driven through constitutional, political or economic change. We have moved towards unitary councils, devolution through combined authorities, development of the sub-national strategic transport boards, all in my view a step in the right direction. But we still have far too many highway authorities. And that's a good hook into one of my passions, is around collaborative working. So while in Leicestershire as a director there, I recognise the benefits of joint working with 2 adjoining authorities, Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. And back in 2005, I set up a thing called 3CAP, the 3 Counties Partnership. And then it evolved into 6CAP. And then it evolved into the Midland Highway Alliance, which is now the biggest example of collaborative working in the highway sector, with 26 highway authorities reaping the benefit of joint working in collaboration around procurement and all the benefits that will bring. But the other thing that's impacted on local government is all the changes that have come through from central government in terms of the political direction. So we had the Maggie Thatcher drive for outsourcing for the private sector, first through blue-collar compulsory competitive tendering, and then white-collar compulsory competitive tendering. This fundamentally changed the structure of our industry and how local roads were designed and built and maintained in the 90s. We then had Tony Blair's era and the initiative around best value that morphed into a thing called comprehensive performance assessment, with best value performance indicators driven by the Audit Commission. Anybody remember them? And finally, David Cameron was about devolution and localism. And what next? Brexit. And what will that bring? These initiatives have always produced career opportunities. And I suppose my message to people is, if there's a secondment opportunity, put your hand up, because that's a really good way of furthering your career. So I developed the CCT contracts in Lincolnshire, led the best value reviews in Lincolnshire, helped both Cambridgeshire and Leicestershire become 4-star excellent authorities. And I took the opportunity as a chief officer in local government to be seconded to take the lead in the Highway Maintenance Efficiency Programme. And where's Steve? You had a hand in this, so perhaps I haven't said thank you, but anyway, it was a great opportunity for me. And the premise there was going back to this ethos around collaborative working. Why reinvent the wheel 155 times? Identify best practice in our industry and let's industrialise it and share it. So I led the development of most of the HMET products, including toolkits and guidance. And I also wrote the self-assessment for DFT, which continues through the incentivised funding to help. And I hope many people in the room will be benefiting from that in the way that the roads are maintained in this country. And then just recognising the importance and the benefits of asset management. And I suppose looking back in 2002, when I was chair of the CSS Engineering Committee, when I recognised the work that Opus were doing, and I'm pleased to mention Opus because they're now part of WSP, that's my only commercial plug, I managed to secure £100,000 of CSS research funding to produce the first highway asset management guidance for local authorities in this country. And I think that was a great step forward in having that document to help authorities help themselves to help embed and progress asset management. How am I doing for time, Chair? Am I okay? 2 minutes, okay. Just really want to touch on another area, which is around the environment, which is very topical. So it's been interesting the scale of change, particularly around climate change impact, from when I started my career and what we've been seeing more recently, which is definitely a move towards an increase in more severe weather events. So I've been responsible for managing winter service throughout my career in local government. I transformed the winter service in Lincolnshire, moving it from a night shift to on-call, and then put a successful business case forward where we brought a whole state-of-the-art fleet of new spreaders, the first time that pre-wets were used in the UK back in the 1990s. And since then, I've been involved in dealing with a series of severe weather events, whether it's drought damage on fen roads, widespread flooding and severe cold weather. And whilst chair of the UK Roads Board, I played a pivotal role during those 3 successive winters of 2008 to 11. And following the reviews, the biggest issue we identified was the lack of resilience. And I think that's been well recognised, enabled us, particularly last week, to be far more prepared and better able to deal with those conditions. So I do congratulate everybody that was involved from the highway sector in what happened last week. So finally, it's always good to reflect on the past and think about the future. And I think some of the older generation, I might be counted as one of those, I guess, always sort of look at the past as being better and more glowing. But actually, I think of it as being different and equally exciting. And I think as an industry, we've made a lot of progress. But inevitably, there's scope to be more. And it's to the essential services we deliver. So I think my message is I've enjoyed a very long and varied career, and I would encourage anyone that wants to have a very satisfying and fulfilling career and make a difference to work in the highways and transportation sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mathew.